Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a fascinating document known as the Scalable Wealth Blueprint. And let me tell you, this isn't just some loose collection of neat ideas. We're going to deconstruct the exact anatomy of a modern wealth-building framework. It's a highly structured, strategic path designed to take you directly from wherever you're sitting right now straight to $1 million net worth. So let's jump right in and deconstruct the mechanics of how this strategy actually works.
Look at this contrast, because it is the absolute philosophical core of the entire blueprint. We are moving completely away from the old way of doing things, which is simply working more hours. We have to completely abandon the time for money trap. Instead, the whole focus pivots to smart work, leverage, and scalable systems. The central thesis here is that your earning potential should never, under any circumstances, be capped by the number of hours you're physically awake. I mean, if you're relying solely on trading your time for a paycheck, the math to reach 7 figures just breaks down.
And that brings us to the very specific, measurable target of this framework. $1 million. We aren't talking about vague, fluffy financial advice today. There's no save more than you spend or the classic stop buying lattes talk here. The source material we're analyzing is explicitly engineered to give you strategic, practical steps to reach 7 figures. It treats wealth creation entirely as a math equation and an engineering problem. Why? Well, because math is predictable. Predictable inputs yield predictable outputs. It completely removes the need for a lucky lottery ticket or some random windfall. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's the architectural structure we'll use to break this blueprint down piece by piece. The wealth-building philosophy, the core focus areas, defining your current situation, the 7 essential deliverables, and the execution mindset. Kicking things off with Section 1, the wealth-building philosophy, and escaping the time for money trap. Every solid blueprint has to start with a strong foundational philosophy. To actually escape that trap, we've got to understand what the source material means by its core mechanism. Scalable systems are defined as infrastructures and processes that allow for revenue growth without a proportional increase in working hours or manual effort. But what does that really look like in the real world? Well, it's building a digital product that you can sell 10,000 times with literally zero extra manufacturing cost. Or it's setting up automated software that handles all your client onboarding while you're fast asleep. The text explicitly demands leveraging these exact kinds of systems. If your income goes up only when you clock more hours, you're not following the blueprint. You're tasked with building a machine that operates and scales completely independently of your physical presence. Moving right along to Section 2, the core focus areas. These are the pillars of your wealth machine. This source material outlines 10 focus areas total, and we're going to tackle the first 5 right now. Think of these as the active building blocks you absolutely need to generate and multiply capital. And it's so cool how perfectly they feed into one another. First, building high-income skills. You need highly specialized capabilities that the modern market desperately wants, things like copywriting, coding, or sales. Then, you leverage those specific skills to create multiple income streams, primarily by starting and scaling online businesses, because those naturally have incredibly high profit margins. But you don't stop there. You inject the leverage we just talked about by using AI and automation to operate those businesses. That's the secret sauce to handling the workload of 10 people as a solo operator. Finally, once the cash is flowing from these automated systems, you've got to be investing those profits wisely to passively multiply what you've just built. Now, once those active building blocks are humming along, the source points to 5 more areas, and these represent the operational maintenance and protection of your wealth. Personal branding and networking, that acts as a massive multiplier, bringing lucrative opportunities straight to your doorstep instead of you constantly chasing them down. Avoiding common financial mistakes like lifestyle creep is your absolute best defense mechanism. Time management and productivity systems make sure you're actually executing that smart work. Delegation and outsourcing are your ultimate tools for buying back your time, letting you focus entirely on high-level strategy. And the whole shebang culminates in a strict focus on long-term wealth creation, deliberately tuning out the noise of short-term cash grabs or passing fads. Which brings us to Section 3, defining your current situation. Let's look at the raw materials for your blueprint. You can't build a house if you don't know what raw materials you're starting with, right? The framework requires you to explicitly document these exact variables to customize your trajectory. Step 1. Document your age and location. Why is this so crucial? Because a 22-year-old living in a massive tech hub has a fundamentally different risk profile and totally different networking opportunities than a 40-year-old with a family living in a rural area. Context dictates strategy. Step 2. Audit your current income and available capital. You have to know your exact financial runway so you aren't taking reckless leaps. And step 3, inventory your existing skills. What can you monetize right this second to generate cash flow while you build up those more advanced high-income skills? You've got to be brutally transparent here, because a blueprint is completely useless if your initial measurements are off. All right, section 4, the 7 essential deliverables, the required outputs for success. Now, what's really interesting about this is how perfectly the source material categorizes the deliverables into strategy, action, and awareness. Under strategy, the blueprint demands a rigorous 12-month action plan and a highly realistic timeline to hit that $1 million mark. Guessing is just not allowed here. Under action, it demands you lock in the daily habits of successful people, identify the absolute fastest skills to learn in today's economy, and outline specific low-cost business ideas so you can test concepts rapidly without going broke. And finally, awareness. You need to curate the right books, tools, and resources. But equally important, and I think this is a brilliant addition, you need an exact list of the biggest mistakes that keep people poor so you can consciously dodge them every single day. And finally, section 5, the execution mindset. Brutal honesty and measurable targets. I literally have to read this exact quote directly from the source text to you. Be brutally honest, practical, and focused on results. Do not give motivational quotes. You've got to love the heavy anti-motivation tone there. This framework relies entirely on sheer pragmatism and strict discipline. Motivation? That's just a fleeting chemical reaction in your brain. Systems and brutal honesty, on the other hand, are reliable. The text explicitly rejects fluffy, feel-good advice in favor of the hard mathematical truths of building a successful enterprise. So, summarizing the final demands of the blueprint, it all boils down to actionable steps, clear priorities, and measurable targets. Success in this model requires religiously tracking your data. You don't rely on your feelings to gauge success, you rely on the math. Actually, ask yourself right now, are you tracking your output or are you just tracking your hours? In this system, you prioritize exactly what moves the needle. You measure the outcome rigorously and you adjust without emotion. It's a highly analytical, almost clinical approach to becoming a millionaire. And that brings us to the ultimate question this entire document asks of you. Are you building scalable systems or are you just working more hours? It all ties right back to that core philosophy. Take a really hard look at your daily actions this week. Are your efforts building a machine that's eventually going to run without you, or are you just running faster and faster on the exact same hamster wheel? Think deeply about that as you process everything we've covered today. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep analyzing,